Hi everyone, welcome back to Therapy Tip Tuesday. I'm Miss Lauren back again this week to talk to you all about my favorite therapy tips that I like to use in my own sessions. This week I want to take the focus of my video and take it outside of the therapy room and talk to you all about ways that you can promote carryover of your children's speech and language goals at home. For those that don't know, carryover is the ability to take skills that are learned in the treatment session and apply them outside of the therapy room in a new environment such as at school, at home, or with peers. Carryover leads to generalization of those speech and language goals that are learned in therapy. The new season brings so many fun ways for you to work on your children's speech and language goals when doing some fun fall activities, and that's exactly what I am going to talk to you all about today. As Halloween gets closer, I'm sure many of you are going to be taking a trip to a pumpkin patch. A pumpkin farm provides so many opportunities for you to label a lot of fall vocabulary, such as pumpkin, scarecrow, corn, hay, tractor, and other words that are around you at the farm. You really can label anything for your children as long as you point it out to them. It kind of just depends on what is available to you at the farm that you choose. Sometimes there might even be animals at the farm, and that provides such a good opportunity for you all to label those farm animals with your children. You can point them out to your children while labeling them as you're pointing, or if your children know the farm animals, you can have them label them for you. There are so many opportunities for you to describe verbs as you are doing them at the farm. So, like, you can say all of this out loud by saying, like, oh, we're picking up the pumpkin, or we're walking to get our pumpkin, or we're running through the corn maze, or now we're buying our pumpkin, and so on. You really can just model those verbs as you're doing them throughout the farm. If your child has an expressive language goal that targets describing objects, you totally can work on that when you're at the pumpkin farm. You can work with them while picking out a pumpkin. They can describe what the pumpkin looks like to you. Or if they need some support, you can ask them questions and see how they respond to these questions. So, for example, you can talk about what size is the pumpkin? Is it big? Is it large? What color is the pumpkin? You can talk about how does the pumpkin feel? Is it bumpy? Is it smooth? Does it have a long or a short stem? Is it heavy or is it light? And so on. You really can just have them describe as much about the pumpkin as possible. Lastly, if you have a child that has a spatial concepts or a prepositions goal, you can work on prepositions at the farm, such as in, on, next to. Examples of that include put the pumpkin in the wagon, take the pumpkin off the vine, and pick up the pumpkin that is next to you. After coming home from the pumpkin farm, some people may leave their pumpkins on the porch as decorations, but I'm sure a lot of you do like to bring those pumpkins inside and carve them and turn them into jack-o'-lanterns. The first language goal that comes to mind when thinking about carving a pumpkin is sequencing and retelling directions. The first thing you can do when you're about to start carving that pumpkin is talk through those steps with your children. So, first thing that we need to do is scoop out all of the seeds. Second, we draw on the face. Next, we carve the pumpkin. And last, we put a candle inside of the pumpkin, and then it's all done. You can have your child retell the directions while following that same first, next, then, last format. And yeah, so I've talked a lot about how we work on language goals during fall activities, but I do want to talk about incorporating articulation goals into fall activities as well. I know a lot of people like to bake during the fall, and you can definitely focus on articulations while doing a baking activity. The first way is that having your child label all of the materials and ingredients that contain their speech sound. For example, if they're working on the S sound, they can label anything that has the S in it. So, like salt, sugar, spoon, spatula, and so on, anything in the recipe. Or they can read the directions if they can read, and if anything has that S sound, then they would repeat that. If you're doing a recipe that doesn't contain any ingredients that have your child's speech sound, or it's very limited, then you can also have them alternate a target word as they add an ingredient from the recipe. So, for example, let's say they're working on an L word, they can say the word little, and then they could add something from the recipe list. And continue with that until The recipe is complete. This is an awesome way to get articulation trials while also baking a fun fall treat. So, with that being said, don't miss out on the many ways you can promote carryover of your children's speech and language goals this fall. I will see you all next week for some more therapy tips.